Hello, guys. So, welcome to another quarantine interview episode 4. And I'm your host, Lionel McVino, as you can all know, the uh, the double game King of some Seed that everyone will say yes to, but here with me, I'm gonna talk to the talented Noel. He's a really good, great photographer, and I recommend you to check out his photos.
Oh, thank you, Lionel.
So, Noel, I know this is a tough situation, and I know you're not in you're not in Canada anymore, right?
No, unfortunately, I had to go back to the Netherlands. And we were supposed to have several projects together, Lionel.
I
Like
know.
in the coming months, we could have released the book by now. But unfortunately, I had to go back to the Netherlands earlier than planned. So yeah, I'm back here.
And I really miss you, and I know the whole family miss you back in Canada. We talked, even when you were off, we talked about in our meetings how much
Mhm.
we missed you. So yeah, but soon we will see each other again once
Yeah,
everything is back to the
yeah,
new normal.
absolutely.
So I wanna talk about, so what have you been up to during this quarantine?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I flew back from Calgary. I think a little less than a month ago now. Although it does feel like a long time ago. The first 14 days I was basically in isolation. I couldn't really go anywhere because I was close to the airport and I traveled. But I realized that I am not really doing bad with the isolation thing. I'm pretty good at it. It's what I do anyway when I'm not in a project. So I guess I was pretty much prepared for it. But yeah, I'm moving to a new city also in the coming month. So I've been spending a lot of time fixing up a new apartment, putting my things in boxes, and yeah, finding little things that I've kept and forgotten in the last years, and now they're all coming up. I have to put them in boxes. So it's a pretty cool trip down the memory lane, I gotta say.
Oh yeah, I can definitely. It's definitely like mm, really cool if you see something that you haven't
Yeah,
seen for a while, and
yeah.
you're like, wow, it's so cool.
Yeah, and it's like looking at a picture that you haven't that you took so many years ago and completely forgotten you've taken, and then suddenly you're looking at it. It gets better in time, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It just as a photographer, you see like all the progress you
Hmm.
make. Yeah, it's really fun. And like speaking of photography,
Hmm.
what first got you into photography?
Oh well, honestly, boredom. I was bored. I was bored. Well, really, the longer story is that when I moved to the Netherlands with my family in 2006 as political refugees. I don't know if you know that about me, but I think I mentioned it in one of the workshops. I
Yep.
moved to the Netherlands as a political refugee. So basically, I was forced to live in a place where everything's different, everything's alien. I didn't know anyone. I didn't speak the language. Um, and I do better in isolation than social environments. So I did spend a lot of time by myself. But I did get my hands on a camera one day, and I thought, hey, this is pretty cool. And in a way that became a medium of expression for me. Living in a city or in a country where I don't speak the language, photography didn't really require me to talk. I just it also gave me an excuse to explore the city I lived in, because I wanted to take pictures. So I found out a lot about the Netherlands by just walking around with a camera. I came from a family of artists, right? And so that helps. But actually, it was the technical side of photography that really interested me. Just I could spend days and weeks just figuring how things work and looking at other people's work and wondering how they made that kind of pictures. I would spend a lot of time um, trying to imitate that. And before I knew it, it's been years, and I've just been taking lots and lots of pictures.
Yeah, like photography is like one of two things that
Mhm.
once you do a lot of it, you're instantly hooked on it.
Yeah.
And then speaking of photography, what kind of photos do you like to take?
Oof. Well, yeah. I guess a lot of people know me as a landscape photographer, right? But in a way, that's an online persona, right? Don't get me wrong. I love um, the whole process of creating landscape photography. I really enjoy it, and it really forces me to go outside and explore. But that's something that most people I know online know me for, my landscape photography. I do have a huge collection of documentary photography, just pictures of people who are close to me, and I've collected them over the years. I just haven't found the right way of putting it together and creating a storyline with it. But mainly lots of landscapes, mountains, um, lots of mountains. I love the mountains, so I have a lot of pictures of mountains.
When you talk about having an online persona,
Mhm.
what do you mean by that?
Well, you know, uh, the age of social media, um, I tend to really just post pictures of my landscape photography, mainly because I didn't know what to do um, with the more intimate pictures that I have collected over the years, pictures, small things that are really personal to me. Um, and so when I before I knew it, I've only just been posting pictures of mountains and great scenery and very beautiful scenery online, and that kind of um, became a life of its own. And most people know me as a landscape photographer now, and you know what? I own it.
Yeah, and also before the pandemic happened, we were all gonna we were all gonna meet and sit together before
Yeah,
that whole thing happened with.
yeah,
So, but next time I'm gonna sit with you, you and do a lot of outdoor stuff.
absolutely,
And
absolutely. We were doing that before when I saw you last time, right?
yeah, we were talking about that. I was gonna bring you to a studio and we could shoot around for
hmm
the day,
hmm
but at
But Jeff, hold on.
upon
I actually I forgot to mention, and this might be something very interesting. I have a lot of pictures of windows. Just
windows.
yeah, just pictures of windows of a storefront or a building or people's houses, but just looking from the outside. And I have an insane collection of pictures of windows. I just forgot to mention that.
Oh, windows. Like how long have you been shooting windows for?
I think at least 10 years because I was going
Can you?
my photo archive the other day, and I was organizing things, and I realized that every little town or every little city I've been to, I just take pictures of windows, and I don't really put a conscious decision to take pictures of windows, and I and I just realized that I could make a collage of full wall full of windows, pictures of windows, and I think I'm gonna do something about that.
That is so cool, and like people wouldn't think anything about a photo of windows, but when you put it all together,
Yeah,
it's magic. It's
yeah, and
gonna
it's from
happen.
everywhere.
Yeah. And then you've been taking photos for a while, so I wanna ask you when did you decide to take it professionally, and how long have
Mhm.
you been shooting professionally for?
I guess it depends on how we define professionally, right? Well, I've been taking pictures half of my life, and I've done it mainly for personal reasons, with a couple of weddings and private workshops in between, one-on-one workshops. Um, Funny thing, professionally, I've spent most of the last decade actually in the hospitality industry. It allowed me to travel a lot, and I always carried more photography gear than clothes and my actual work stuff. Um, but yeah, in the last decade, I think 8 years I was in the hospitality industry. Um, so it's hard to say that I shot personally, although I did have several paid projects in the last 10, 12 years.
Dang, dang,
Yeah, but now I do work in the field of photography, but not as a photographer, but more of a community organizer or an activist, if you want to say.
oh yeah,
Photography is a tool that I use. Kwento't Litrato, the project that we did together, where I had the opportunity to collaborate with you, is actually my first big project in the field of photography, and I've learned so much from it. And it did open a lot of opportunities and projects for me this year. Well, until COVID-19 hit.
yeah, COVID-19 app.
Yeah.
And then speaking of like photography and you
Hmm.
doing it for 10 years,
Hmm.
I remember you talking to us in the workshop about it, but
Hmm.
can you explain to the audience what is
Hmm.
your creative process like?
My creative process.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really have one as a standard process. I have to say, but as a landscape photographer, um, really, it's I enjoy the long drive, listening to loud music in the car, um, and then the moderate hikes in the mountains. And sometimes you go home with amazing pictures. Sometimes you go home with hundreds of pictures of rocks and grass. But that's creative process for me. Just the whole process, the whole experience, and not really expecting to have something great by the end of the day, but just going along with it. But as someone who facilitates workshops, it helps to work with a community. The community is my creative process. Talking with people, although I am terrified of working with people. I'm usually terrified of working with people, but I get the best results in community work when I work with the community, right?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so it does help a lot when you're involving other people in your creative process and start from there.
I totally agree with you on that. And talking about landscape photography and
Hmm.
talking about you
Hmm.
traveling a lot, and I saw your photos there. I'm really jealous that you get to travel everywhere and your photos look so awesome. So
Thanks, man.
what is your favorite place to take photos?
Huh. That's well, don't tell the other places I said I have favorite places, but
I will.
if I have to choose, I gotta say Death Valley in California and Kananaskis Country in Alberta. Kananaskis
Ooh,
is a special place in my heart because I spent a lot of time just exploring the whole place. It's massive, it's quiet. The tourists, the all the people tend to go to Banff and Jasper, and Kananaskis is just there outside the highway, and I spent a lot of time there. So it took me a while to actually get great results from taking pictures there. I guess you have to know the place and you actually have to let it inspire you.
oh
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, Kananaskis Country has a special place in my heart. But Death Valley, the several times I've been there, it's different every time. And I know that the next time I go to Death Valley, despite my aversion to sand and heat, um, it's always going to be a good time.
Oh yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you. Like for landscape photography, you
Hmm.
need to take in a lot of time to like
Hmm.
plan your thoughts and
Yeah, yeah,
also to live, be in the moment, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. I've traveled with some people who, in the course of planning where do we go next. I've traveled with some who said, "No, I don't want to go there because I've been there before." And to me, like I don't understand that. I
Oh
need
yeah.
to go back to the same place over and over again, and I don't really mind doing that. Of course, there's something about seeing the place for the first time and photographing a place like the way you see it for the first time. But there's also something about really getting to know the place, exploring every tree and rock in the place, and I think that it, at least in my experience, getting to know the place really gives me the best results in landscape photography.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you, Darren. Like people, people often say like photography, like taking photos, don't
Mhm.
is limited to us for being in the moment. I
Mhm.
got like, do you agree with that? Do you agree that photography don't let us live in the moment?
Well, there are different ways to see it, right? One is as a documentary photographer. Also, um, you have that small window of opportunity to document what's really happening in front of your eyes. It's not something that, well, let's go back tomorrow during sunset, or it's not something that you plan ahead, right? Sometimes, well, most of the time, at least in my experience in documentary photography, is just really being in the moment and also doing my best not to influence anything that's happening in the moment, which is different when you're in the same room. Um, but I guess working with people is a very different experience, photography wise, compared to working with a place. You know, when you're in the mountains or when you're in the woods, there is very little that you can control, and you really live in that environment where, well, you're in the grace of nature, right?
Yeah,
Um, and with working with people, I can't say much about that because I've never, well, not that I've never, but I rarely ever work in the conditions where I have to influence people and influence moments. So yeah, I don't have an answer for that. I think I've just went around that topic for a bit. No, I don't have an answer for that.
No, I get it. It's different. Y- what I get why you're saying that it's different to compare because there's different types of photography that
Hmm.
you need to, like in a landscape photography, it's
Hmm.
like you're you need to be in the moment to
Yeah,
capture the
yeah.
photo. But working with people, working in commercials, and more
Hmm.
like you can manipulate
Yeah.
things that,
You can plan ahead,
yeah, that it,
plan everything.
yeah, that it really,
Yeah,
really hard to like be in the moment
yeah,
because of like you're working with people, right?
yeah. And you know, Lionel, there's also another interesting conversation I had with a friend when she said like sometimes you have to put down the camera and live with the moment and enjoy the moment. And we had this long conversation about that because for me, taking pictures actually enhances the experience for me.
Yeah,
And it's not just looking back and having the pictures to look back and remember that experience, but it forces me to actually look into the smaller details of what's happening in front of me. And that's in no way taking away the whole experience of being in a place or being in an environment that having a camera or taking pictures takes it away from me. You know what I mean?
I know I totally get it, and I feel the same way that it just let us learn how to appreciate
Hmm.
things, and it just to let us have a different point of view on everything and be more open-minded
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
certain situations.
Yeah.
Yep. And I also have a question for all the camera gear
Hmm.
addicts out there. So what kind of camera do you use, and what is your favorite lens to use?
Right. Okay. Habitually, I'm a Nikon user. So, so most of my gear is Nikon. Um, it really depends on what I'm using it for, but for most purposes, when I go hiking, um, reasonably I can take one camera body and uh, 24 to 70.
The lens.
But when the other day I was looking through my Instagram and
Oh
I
yeah.
best pictures or the pictures that I think are the best, the pictures I like the most were taken with a telephoto. So in landscape photography, right? Most of them are taken at between 150 to 200 millimeter. I
That's
really
a big
like,
guide.
yeah, I really like things up close, like taking small details out of the grand scene of things. And
Yeah.
yeah, those are my favorite pictures. But most of the time, I just really walk around with a small point and shoot Lumix camera
I
when I'm going to a family or I'm going to social events. I just take a small point and shoot camera because people react to big cameras, and I don't want them reacting too much to big cameras. So I try to be as invisible as much as I can.
that's so nice, and yeah, like I I was telling the world before that I quit on my camera gear, man. I'm a Sony user now. I need that lightweight camera.
Mhm.
But yeah, but anyway, you're you so right now, like you've been talking about a lot about people and being active with the
Mm-hmm.
community, and
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned that we you were in Calgary and we work in a project called Kwento't Litrato together. So
Yeah.
can you tell the audience what is Kwento't Litrato and what the project is all about?
Yeah. First, it's been a privilege to work with you on that project, along with other members of the community, of course. So Kwento't Litrato is a series of storytelling based photography workshops. Um, it explores the stories of Filipino migration in Alberta. Um, and the stories came from the experiences of people like you and me who are Filipino migrants in Alberta, or at least has Filipino roots, who now live in Alberta. The idea is simple, really. It's just how do we take the narrative of Filipino migration and tell it through the lens of regular people who the story belongs to. Typically, photography is at least trying not to offend anyone here, but it's becoming an elitist uh, group of people, or at least the narratives of Filipino migration, well, basically, a lot of narratives are usually being taken by those who are in more privileged positions, people who have access to the equipment, people who has contacts, people who has the platform and the resources to be able to tell stories. So the idea is we need to take the narrative of um, the Filipino migration and let the people tell those stories using photography. So yeah, we held several workshops in the summer of 2018. Was it 2018, Lionel?
Mm, no,
2019.
I
Yeah, it
think
was. Yeah.
2019.
Okay, so yeah, summer of 2019. So last year, we had a series of storytelling based workshops in Calgary and Edmonton, and the participants you included came up with an exhibit, yeah, exploring the different sides of Filipino migration in Alberta. And now we're turning it into a book, and we were supposed to launch the book on April 9th. Uh,
Yep.
I gotta say, we have a lot of extra time to actually make it a better version than it would have been if it was released on April 9th. So I guess, silver lining, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we'll still be able to release it this year. The exhibit has been shown in several venues, most notably in Arts Commons, where it was up for an entire month. And I'm happy that we were able to do that just before everything locked down and everything was
Yeah.
canceled. So we were able to do that. And I'm hoping to be able to do more of that projects in the future. And I'm hoping that you guys can continue working on that project in the coming years when everything's back to, as you say, the new normal.
Yeah, and like with like Grand of Toronto, it gets
Mhm.
up like we're talking with a bunch of people. It just open their eyes about
Mhm.
our photo.
Mhm.
One simple photo can say 1,000 words and
Mhm.
about the art ship and like the systematic racism that
Mhm.
exists in our society today, and that has both like a lot of disparity between race and like
Mhm.
how as a society we need to still work on being more inclusive instead of being exclusive,
Mhm.
or saying that we're diverse by
Yeah.
inviting people to the table but not letting them have a voice. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it and talking to a bunch of participants, and
Mm-hmm.
I watched all the interviews before I interview you, like on the news, and there's a common theme about this project allow us
Mm-hmm.
to give a voice to
Mm-hmm.
be heard because people like us are never heard
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time because of the color of our skin. So this
Mm-hmm.
was a great opportunity for all of us to like be heard and to get
Mm-hmm.
the recognition that we need to address the problem we have in our society.
Well, I'm happy you said that, and like I said, I hope that this project. First of all, I didn't expect the project to go that far. You know, in the beginning, it was a small project. We invited some people to get together and see what we could make out of it. I thought it was gonna end in one simple exhibition at C Space and in Edmonton, but I didn't realize the impact until much later um, that we've gotten far with it with the
Yeah,
project, and I'm very happy, and I hope it keeps on going, and more people will have the opportunity to see the stories, and we can keep doing the workshops and gather more stories, and maybe who knows, in 5 years, 10 years, how many stories we can put together, not just in Alberta but in other provinces, other countries even.
yeah,
Yeah.
and what you said, like you said, like it that help us as a community be a stronger community and help us to like address like the issues we face and help us to work with other
Hmm.
alliances of the
Yeah.
community to help us to like come up with ways so we can
Hmm.
find opportunities for us
Yeah.
to be successful and like yeah, I thought that it was gonna be the end after the summer, but
Yeah.
after October and they called me up for a meeting. They're like,
Hmm.
yeah, so thing, we're having a thing at the art comment. They like
Yeah.
me, they emailed me in September. They're like, so what do you guys think about the art comment? I'm like, okay. And then they're like, yep, we're doing it at the art comment. And I thought it was only gonna be a day, like
Yeah.
just a display, and then people are just gonna go around. They're
Hmm.
like, no, we're having it for a month. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, a month.
Yeah.
Great.
That was
And
really cool. That was really cool.
yeah, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna be on the news. We wanna get interviewed. I'm like, okay, we wanna do a talk about it. Yeah, but yeah, it that gives us a lot of it gives people a lot of opportunities that they don't that they don't normally have to think
Yeah.
about. Yeah. And like talking about this project, so how important is the message and the values of Kwento't Litrato during this
Hmm.
time of a pandemic?
Yeah. Um, Kwento't Litrato brought forward a lot of diverse stories about Filipino migrants in Alberta. And it created awareness on the struggles that they face um, and what the implications of this pandemic could be in their lives. The caregivers who are now what we call the frontliners, the temporary workers, people like you and myself who lost work over this pandemic. And let's also start thinking about the non-status ones. Um, what's going to happen if they get sick? So while many of us, including myself, still can say that the quarantine has been a massive inconvenience and, well, because of our plans that were canceled, the effect of the pandemic is much more painful for many, many others out there. I guess the more important question that we should be asking is uh, what are we going to do with this awareness that we already have now that we brought forward these stories of different profiles, different lives of Filipino migrants, and this goes beyond just the Filipino migrants in Alberta. Um, is I think the more important question is how can we, what action are we going to take, right? What are we going to do with this awareness? How can we help? How can we change the government policies that allow so many immigrants out there, not just in Alberta, um, to be in this situation in the first place? I guess that's the question that I'm missing a lot is what are we going to do about it with awareness?
Yeah, there's so many questions and for like there's so many questions and
Mm-hmm.
people don't really like that people that are 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 like working mm,
Mm-hmm.
are in their working visa right now. Those people are being heavily dependent on right now because
Mm-hmm.
they are working and they are working as a caregiver or in the healthcare or
Mm-hmm.
in the front line. They're
Mm-hmm.
helping in essential services. They're helping to keep the economy alive and helping us to stay healthy. And I don't think people realize that how much of an impact migrant
Mm-hmm.
workers have in our society because right now they're working their butts off to
Yeah.
and risking their own lives because of the COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
So they're risking their bodies and risking their families so that they can still live and get food in the table and have a roof
Yeah.
in their house. And I think we should be mindful. You brought
Yeah.
up a good point. People should be aware about how much sacrifices that those workers are making.
And Lionel, what I'm also looking for in the future is after the lockdown, after the quarantine, after the isolation, when we go back to our normal lives, um, is that we do not forget about the awareness that we speak about in social media, that we talk about with our friends, just because we have a lot of time right now to actually do that. What I'm hoping is that after this pandemic, after we can actually do something about it, we we will actually do something about it together as a community and keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree, and like feel like then social media it will that help people open their minds and
Mm-hmm.
be aware like we need to take a break and like quarantine that allows people allows everyone to take a break and think about
Mm-hmm.
reflect about how they should do things differently, and I think right now the I'm hoping that the people in charge will reflect on the situation and think about like how to appreciate uh, people that are working so damn
Mm-hmm.
hard to
Yeah,
help the economy be healthy and to help people be healthy, protecting everyone from the disease.
mm-hmm.
I hope people would be appreciated
Yeah,
more more toward that than like making profit, because you and I both know like before the epidemic happened, like there was some questionable acts
mm-hmm.
and decisions about our health care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with this, you know what?
Yeah, yeah,
With I hope they look at this situation and appreciate all those people working in healthcare now.
exactly. Not just in healthcare, we're also talking about people who work in
Yeah,
groceries. We're also talking about people who still keeps us afloat. You
yeah,
know, we're se- we're finally seeing what the essential jobs are out there suddenly.
yeah, yep, and I wanna say to people like if you're going to a drive-through and getting food or going to
Mm-hmm.
a grocery, make
Mm-hmm.
sure to thank people that are working there, especially
Mm-hmm.
thank and show love to the people that to the migrant workers working there because they're risking
Mm-hmm.
everything for a better life for their
Mm-hmm.
family. And right now, like, I got another question for you.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
uh, uh, so you talk about being a refugee at the Netherlands, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how hard is it in in your in your point of view? How hard is it to be a new immigrant coming to a new place
Mm-hmm.
during this epidemic?
Sorry, how hard is it to be a new immigrant in a place?
In a
I didn't.
new place
Mm-hmm.
in, during this time?
Mm-hmm. So during this pandemic,
Yeah.
well, hard to say. I moved here when I was 16, and that's an entirely different situation. The biggest problem I had at the time was I was just a teenager, a rebel, a rebel teenager who wants to rebel against everything. So um, that was a very different time. I do know of a couple of political refugees who are just getting to know the place that they live in right now and in this time. In my experience, I had all the resources, at least most resources were accessible for me when I moved here. Um, the biggest problem was I was a rebel and I didn't want to take it, but there were opportunities to learn the language. There were opportunities to integrate myself. But of course, when you're forced to move away from your home and live in a foreign country, um, be forced to do it, it's a very different experience. There's always this resistance. But I imagine if I were to move to the Netherlands as a political refugee right now, things would have been so much more difficult. It'll take a toll in your mental health more than it should. Um, the worst thing about moving to a different country and being forced to move to a different country is the loneliness. That's one of the worst things, and being so helpless. And I imagine being forced into quarantine and isolation at that time must be very, very hard.
Yeah, yeah, I could imagine. And like hearing like what my parents and my aunts and uncles been into, like they were like telling what you said, they were
Mm-hmm.
against against it because they were teenagers and young adults,
Mm-hmm.
so they were rebelling or
Mm-hmm.
to move and to adapt to
Yeah,
this place, and it
yeah.
just kind of like people don't understand it, like yeah, we people move here because of the better economic
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. It doesn't mean that the country is better, that more
Mm-hmm.
economic opportunities give
Mm-hmm.
polluter more security with
Mm-hmm.
with the political
Mm-hmm.
government kind of thing, but
Yeah,
people don't understand it. Take
yeah,
a lot of mental health, a lot of mental health problem with going to a new place and adapting. It takes a lot
yeah.
of time to call it home, and like
And
the
did you
re-
ever get to call it home
yeah,
eventually? You know, I've been here 14 years and I still don't. I still don't feel that it is home for me. And the one or two times that I was able to go back to the Philippines, it felt so different that it also it hardly felt like home to me. So now I feel like, where's home, right?
yeah,
You, you're like just floating out there and not really. Yeah, I can't help but feel sometimes that I don't really belong anywhere because of
uh,
what happened, and it's something that you're gonna live with for the rest of your life.
yeah, yeah, and then like talking, like talking in the workshop and in the meeting, there was a number of us in our group that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like Canada is home, or doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like going back to the Philippines is either.
Yeah,
It's that
yeah.
we're like those those nomads, like
Mm-hmm.
that moving to one place or to the other, to
Yeah.
the other. But yeah, that like it is, and it's not like it's not something new. It's like it's been happening for many, many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
That keep on moving and
Mm-hmm.
not calling home their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. difficult for people to understand that,
Hmm.
but we just hope that people can understand the struggles with going to a new place and
Hmm.
adapting to the culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like I know this the last question. I know this pandemic impact a lot of people livelihood and mental health. And like I'm on what would your message be during this situation, and what would your message be to all the migrant workers and all the new families
Hmm.
that are situated in a new place during this pandemic?
You know, that's a very hard question to answer, and I'm struggling with that myself. Um, I'm also trying to come up with a message that I could tell myself to make things more bearable, right? And I don't want to say be strong or be safe or keep being productive or, God forbid, stay positive. And because, across the world, many don't really have that choice right now. And these are just words, and it doesn't bring food to the table for many of us out there. So, at least for myself, what I want to try to tell myself is that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry in this situation. Um, and when this is all over, or maybe we can even start now, we can transform that anger into fighting for better healthcare, for better governance, for a better system to be put in place so that when something like this is not going to be the last pandemic, this is not going to be the last crisis, but whenever this happens, and I think now in this situation, it's more evident that the inequality out there is so great that it's okay to be angry. Why is it that some people are? So you were asking if I had a message, right, to those who whose livelihood and mental health are affected, and
Yeah,
I was saying that it was a very hard question for me to answer because I don't even have a message for myself that makes a whole lot of sense yet. But and I was saying I don't want to say just be strong or be safe because that doesn't bring food to the table for many of us. And for myself, what I'm saying is it's okay to be angry, and that hopefully when this is all over, or when maybe we can even start now, that we can transform this anger and fight for better governance, for better healthcare, for a better system to be put in place um, for everyone. Because we can see, especially now with COVID-19, that the inequality is so great that a lot of people out there have lost their jobs, and they're only one paycheck away from from being for being hungry, for losing a lot of things. And while other people are out there, just they can afford to just sit around and do absolutely nothing and still be okay in the coming months, years, and still have a fully stocked fridge. The inequality is so great that it's okay to be angry, and later we can get together as a community and transform this anger and fight for a more just society.
yeah, that is beautifully well put, and I totally agree with you. And I really wanna say, like, it was an honor and it was a pleasure working with you in the project. I really learned a lot. You guys really motivate me and really in liking my passion for photography. And not only for photography but also for advocacy. You really
Mhm.
like my feeling that I thought I lost, but now like you guys allow me to put my two passions together. So thank you for that.
The honor is mine, Lionel, and thank you for doing this interview.
Yeah, no beautiful man. I'm on. So where can people find you?
Well, they can find me in your followers on Instagram, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
I'm
your
working on a website right now, but
oh,
you know, when you don't really have a deadline,
oh yeah,
much slower.
oh yeah. Because I like, don't you have a website? Like I remember you did, but you're working on it.
I'm working on a website, but you know, after 2 days or 3 days, I don't like what I did anymore, so just
Uh,
start over again. You know what
Yeah,
it
yeah, I know, I get it, and it gets really old. But yeah, find him on Instagram. I'm gonna link all the Kwento't Litrato stuff and all
Yes.
the news articles. You can find me on the news article
Yes.
and on the news video in the bottom. But yeah, thank you a lot. I can finally say I got a friend in the Netherlands,
Awesome. Thank you.
and then keep a lookout for a book that we collaborated as a community. And yeah, we don't know when the book is gonna launch, but we will say we will let you guys know, and you guys will be and you guys will be notified, and yeah, buy our book for donation. So yeah, see ya.